Peace, lovely people. This is Straight Up with Nate, and I'm Nate. So, have you ever dealt with people who like to sit there and say, oh, you're a little too confident. Oh, you're a little too full of yourself. Oh, you're too prideful. Things of that nature. Mind you, two different words, two different meanings. The thing about it is that a lot of people confuse confidence and pride, and they are not the same thing at all. To get right into it, my definitions I have prepared, or that I've taken from different dictionaries, I put them together. The definition of pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. The second definition is consciousness of one's own dignity. We'll get into that later. The definition of confidence is the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something, i.e., firm trust. The second definition is the state of being or feeling certain about the truth of something. The third definition is a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. Now, here's the thing. When we get into it, and when we're discussing pride versus confidence, they sound similar in terms of definition, but they're actually not the same. Now, when we're talking about pride, I think a lot of people tend to think that pride is all the way a bad thing. In some contexts, yes. As opposed to confidence, which most times people tend to think that it's a bad thing when confidence is actually a very good thing. Now, when we're talking about confidence, I think people tend to really mistake confidence for pride. Now, when we're talking about either or, it's very important to understand the distinction. One is being self-aware, which is being confident, that you are able to take on certain challenges, understanding who you are, understanding what you're capable of, and how you can do it. Being prideful can come with contexts of not understanding what circumstances you are in and why that can be detrimental in terms of you taking on certain challenges, issues, or problems when you are unsure of the risks as well as the consequences behind them. Now, to continue, I think a lot of times when people talk about pride is a very widely used word, and I think a lot of people don't really understand its context. And when we talk about pride, I think a lot of people tend to think that pride is something that you should hold close to or that you should hold on to and so on and so forth. Okay, great. But it's not really all that great. And when I say that, it's not to say that if you are prideful that you're a bad person. Sometimes being prideful just means that you need to see certain circumstances outside of self, so that you are aware that, okay, I can't move a certain way, I can't talk a certain way, I can't deal with certain things in certain contexts, right? So pride, I think sometimes some people get prideful in the sense that they are willing to suffer in silence. Now, pride has many contexts that most people are prepared to consider. It's not just simply being so full of yourself that you're so this, that you're so that, and so on and so forth. No, sometimes there are people who they don't like to ask for help. Why? Because they don't like to burden themselves. Now, to be completely transparent, Nathaniel is absolutely 1000% guilty of this. There are definitely plenty of times where I am so not willing to ask for help, not because I think people are bad or not because I think people are terrible, but there are times where I've put trust into people or I've wanted people to do certain things to help me out and they left me high and dry. It is what it is. So I develop a certain type of context or development for myself where I say, you know what? I'll deal with it myself. So I suffered in silence and I never used to really ask people for help. But as I'm getting older, I've come to understand that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I don't have everything together. I don't know everything. And I need help to understand what I'm dealing with here. Not everything that I'm trying to do is going to make sense. But what I can do now is make sure that when I do have a moment where I'm struggling, I can ask people and say, hey, are you able to help me out? Are you willing to show me how to do this, that, and the third? And so this is where also confidence comes in. Confidence kicks in the sense that when I don't know something, to be confident to ask and say, hey, I'm struggling with putting this together. I'm struggling with putting that together. I'm struggling getting directions. I'm struggling getting certain things together. Can you help me out? Can you help me understand what I have to do and things of that nature? That's just me. I think when we're also talking about pride and suffering in silence, I think a lot of times people have been hurt or scarred or have gone through certain circumstances where they just say, you know what, I'm just deal with it on my own. I have no reason for me to ask for anybody for help because, like I said, people have let you down, people have hurt you, people have put you in a place where you just don't trust everybody. And that's okay. So you deal with pride in a sense where you're suffering in silence. Now, the other context of pride where we're talking about being full of oneself, that person, that young woman, that young man who they're so full of their strength, so full of their power, so full of their own understanding that they don't need support, they don't need help, they don't need someone to guide them and things of that nature. And so they do things in a way where they're not exactly considerate of the next person who's next to them or is the person who's around them. So they do things in a way where I'm the one who made this, I'm the one who got here, I'm the one who made certain things work together and things of that nature. Don't be prideful. Don't be prideful. The one thing I can say about life is that you're never gonna know what's going to happen. You're never gonna know how things are gonna play out. And so being prideful, like I said, can be detrimental in the sense that you're trying to do things by your own strength or you're trying to do things according to your own understanding. Where sometimes you actually do have to go to somebody else who has a better understanding or who has a better life experience who can explain to you, hey, I don't think you should make this business venture. I don't think you should make this idea come to fruition because it's not going to benefit you in the long run. So I think you should take your time, be patient. And what pride will do is override that type of thinking and say, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway because this is my dream, this is my focus, this is my idea, so on and so forth. Let me be clear. It's understandable if you have your own ideas, if you have your own dreams, you have your own aspirations, that's okay. But it's also wise to take a moment and say, let me also consider the factors and the circumstances I'm working with. To get into confidence. Confidence is willing to humble yourself, but also understand the value of self. I think a lot of times people tend to confuse the two, like I mentioned before, because they sound similar, but they're not similar at all. One thing my father used to tell me, I love this man to death. He would say to me, very intuitive to me, where he would say, the reason why some people can't tolerate you or don't like you is because what you bring to the table, they can't replicate in the kitchen. And so they're irritated by it. When you're confident, that means you are aware of your own value. You are aware of your own volition. You are aware of your own understanding. You are aware of everything that is around you. And you walk in a place of understanding that I can do things and I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to take a moment. I'm not afraid to be humble because I understand that there's better for me out there. And that there are people who can be better than me, and then there's other people who I'm willing to teach. Being confident is not a bad thing where you understand your value. You understand what you bring to the table. You know what you bring to the atmosphere. And the thing about it is like I tell people all the time, you have to be a walking atmosphere. Confidence is not simply just you being confident. Confidence is an atmosphere. Confidence is walking into a room, you know who you are, you understand what you bring to the table. Yeah, you don't have everything figured out. Yeah, you're not perfect. Yeah, you don't have everything understood. And I'm okay with that. I may not have thousands of dollars. I may not even have a car. I may not even have children. I may not even be married. But you know what? I'm okay with being who I am because at the end of the day, I'd rather be me than be somebody who I can't recognize. That's what confidence says. Confidence is willing to say, you know what? Damned if I do, damned if I don't. But you're humble about it because you're not willing to let yourself be so doubtful about what you're capable of doing and what you're not capable of doing. Understand? I think a lot of times people tend to think that just because someone is confident that they're prideful. That's not what it is. Being confident is also willing to identify who you are, things you love, things you hate, things you appreciate, things you don't appreciate, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're not willing to tolerate. Are you ready for certain things? Are you not ready for certain things? And understanding that it's okay if you don't have everything figured out. But you walk in a confidence of understanding that I'm not living this life on my own, and that I walk through it knowing that I'm not perfect, but I'm able to do it. I'm able to walk knowing that I work hard. I do what needs to be done, that I'm capable of being patient. I'm capable of working hard and making a difference in my community or to my family or to those who are around me. And so in confidence, it's okay to be confident. Rather, it's better for you to be confident because you know who you are. Being confident is also being self-aware that I know my worth, as I mentioned before, and I know what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And that you are confident in your decisions, confident in your choices, confident in your being. Pride is not always being sure of self. Pride can be a derivative of insecurity. You have no reason to be insecure. When you're confident, you know who you are. You're sure of yourself. But with that being said, I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, like, share, comment. You know the deal. Share the word. And by all means, I will see you next time.